Well, hello, you guys. Welcome to Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson. I am your host, Dr. Jefferson, and today we're going to have a very interesting show. There is a newly submitted relationship topic. I bumped out the previous one that I was going to talk about because I just kind of feel like maybe the one that I picked just now that came in, what has it been, maybe 2 hours ago? I feel like that one might be more appropriate for the conversation of the day. So I'm going to talk about that one, and you guys will see the headliners for the show tonight kind of stream through as the pre show is playing. I want to go ahead and give a really huge shout out to the chat because you guys are always so engaging and you guys are amazing. I'm so grateful for the support, the love, the shares, the likes, the encouragement, the topics that you guys have been sending me, and basically all of the love that you guys show me and the consistency that you guys show me in showing up and just sitting here and sitting through the show with me on a consistent basis weekly. I really try hard to bring this stuff to you guys and to have the difficult conversations that were sometimes less, you know, interested in having because they can be difficult and sometimes it can be hard for us to sit with some truths. Today, we're going to talk about a trending topic about the concert that happened over the weekend where things spiraled from a very enjoyable event to a deadly event, bloodbath, if you will, a nightmare, some concert goers say. And where people are when it comes to Travis Scott and what they feel like they should be doing right now at this point in the aftermath. So we're going to have that conversation. This is National Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month. So I'm going to give you guys some tips and tricks about um, what the process looks like, some of the things that you can do, some of the ways that you can recognize suicidal behavior, suicidal ideation. I'm going to tell you guys what that looks like. We're going to talk about all of that today. And hopefully, you walk away feeling empowered and inspired to not only be the best version of yourself that you can be for yourself, but also be the best version of yourself that you can be for the entire environment of connectivity that is linked with you or to you, if you will. So feel free to share your comments and your personal reservations as they relate to the topics that we're going to discuss today. Hey, Bernice, how are you? And also, hey, Darius, how are you doing? As you guys come in during the pre-show, just know that the different talking points that we're going to have in the conversation today will be streaming and kind of go in that order. Before we get started, you guys know I got to kind of go into all of these disclaimers and all of that stuff. So it's in the pre-show. And if you guys do not like blues and rock kind of mixed up together, the pre-show is typically around 3 minutes or so, all the disclaimers and stuff, so I can see you guys back in about 3 minutes. All right, so see you soon. You don't want to miss this show. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. right, welcome back, you guys. So let's jump right into this. Over the weekend, there was a concert Travis Scott hosted, and um, I got a couple of feelings about that. But there was, a Travis Scott concert, and there were thousands and thousands of people. Like, did you guys see the crowd? Like, seriously. But so, at the point where this young man takes the stage to entertain his audience, which is what he gets paid to do, people started to kind of rush forward toward the stage. And what's interesting to me is that I'm like not really an avid R&B, what do you say, R&B and rap person. I kind of like only R&B, and it's only the R&B that came kind of before the 2000s. I'm gonna be honest. But so Travis Scott is a rapper, right? He's a rapper who is, his lyrics can get a little bit controversial, a little bit hostile, if you will, but so are the various rappers that are out there. All these different Little Uzi, Duval, the baby, all weird names that you guys have for these rappers. But hey, if that's your preference, rock on, right? So, but my thing is this, right? If this performer has a history, right? He's historically known for having pretty violent outcomes as far as like the people who follow him and the way that they behave at his concerts. And if there was already concerns from people that have promoted the event, from people who attend the events on a regular basis, these people who have some direct insight as to what this typically looks like, if there was concern already, I guess the first question is, why is there not enough security available to take care of what may or may not happen when it comes to violent things, right? Why are there not enough security measures? Why are we not having this concert in a place where people can be protected, if you will? So 8 people lost their lives. Several people were injured over the course of this trampoline type of event. 8 people lost their lives. And what you hear from people everywhere, whether they're Travis Scott followers or not, what you hear is that this guy needs to be canceled. Very much like we hear about everything else that people seem to divest from easily because it doesn't fit the narrative. Okay? We're just going to call a thing because it doesn't fit the narrative that they are currently subscribed to. They want to cancel every single person, but they're still invested in the music. This is still a person whose music that you've liked for whatever length of time, right? And the worst part for me is this: violence can only escalate, it can only go in one direction, it can only go up. That's it. When you have violence that's accepted by a culture of people, that would be the fans. The fan base is a culture of people. They're a subculture. Call them a cult, whatever you want to call them, but they are a culture of people. And so if we've accepted violence, if we have accepted pseudo violence, that's kind of like the fake violence. It presents as violent, but we really ain't about that life. Kind of like that. If we accept this, if this is a part of what we do, and historically, this is not only how we behave, but this is what we're about. We have to take additional measures to make sure that these people who attend these events are safe and they're protected, because we know that this is pseudo hostility. We know it's not the real stuff. We know that we're really not about that life. We know that we kind of like are entire imposters in this whole situation. So why not take a additional step, or a couple of additional steps to make sure that the security measures are appropriate for what we are expecting? If these things don't happen, that's a great thing, right? But we know that this particular bunch of people have a tendency to become violent. Why? Because the music that we're listening to kind of promotes that. This type of music promotes XYZ. And that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Why are we not taking additional measures to protect people? And I want to say this because I know a lot of people think that, rap is limited to Black people. Because I say wake up Black people, it doesn't mean that I feel like rap is limited to the audience of Black people. Because if you guys look at that crowd was pretty friggin' mixed. It was pretty white. A lot of white people who like Travis Scott. Okay. And I just I just feel like we've got to be people that will call a thing and will do so consistently in order for us to get the type of change that we need to be more congruent with what the outcomes are, right? So, what stood out to me is this whole cancel culture thing in response, okay? We don't give anybody time to process the trauma of being amidst a crowd of people at an event that's supposed to be celebratory, that's supposed to be joyous, and all that good stuff. We don't give people time to process what has happened to them, this trauma, including Travis Scott. Including Travis Scott, folks. I'm pretty sure there is one thing in expecting a thing to happen and a whole nother thing when things go down the way that we expect them to or worse. I'm pretty sure that Travis Scott never expected for anyone to be murdered at his event. Pretty sure about that. His response when he's on this video and he's basically internally in tears and he's in turmoil. You can see the level of distress. You can hear the distress in his voice. You know that this man is coming unglued because of what has happened to these people. He's in the direct aftermath of this concert, trying to figure out who these families are of these people who lost their family members as a result of them being at an event that he had and they were trampled, right? It doesn't mean that he is responsible, but he's taking accountability for hosting an event where he knows that typically his following is kind of hostile. And they have the potential to harm someone, okay? And he didn't take additional security precautions, right? But people want to cancel the guy. You want to cancel the guy. So let's get to the comments. Let me take a look at you guys' comments really quickly. I want to know what you think about it. I want to know where you stand. I want to know how you guys are feeling. Even in the aftermath, I'm going to specifically talk about one of the people who was at the concert. The young lady fell out a couple of times. She got there early. She and her boyfriend. I made some notes, you guys. I made some notes. Madeline Eskins. She and her boyfriend Sam got there together fairly early, trying to find a appropriate space to observe the concert. And she said that she felt like she was going to die because she felt an enormous amount of pressure on her back, on her chest. It felt like she was being squeezed in as the crowd started to move forward in on Travis Scott. And the woman she passed out. She fainted. She fainted a couple of times and woke up in different places. Hey, Kel, how are you? Shout out to the chat. Hey, Mario, Jay, what's going on? Make sure that you're sharing this out. Make sure you guys are coming in, liking, sharing, subscribing, all of that great stuff if it resonates with you. And also let me know how you guys feel about this stuff. Fort Squatter says it's sad there's someone in my town who was someone who died at this concert. Listen, I have a couple of clients who have family members who passed away at the concert as well, and I feel like it's so impactful. That's the piece that we're not talking about. I think people are talking about cancel Travis Scott as if Travis Scott is the person who murdered these people, right? I think that there is a certain level of accountability we have to take when it comes to just us being able to regulate what we do engage in and what we don't engage in. First of all, we have to understand that we're still battling a deadly pandemic right now, right? The crowd not only was too close, but it was also, it was way too many people to be in a pandemic. It's just way too many people. I'm sorry for your loss though. I feel like, everybody is connected to someone who has experienced some, the loss of someone as a result, or the injury of someone as a result of this concert. And it's terrible, right? It just is. Says, hello, Dr. J in chat. I need some coffee for this. The time difference is too much. All right, Jenny, we'll get your coffee so that you can sit through, because this show is definitely one that you do not want to miss. I swear. I know you guys probably saw the relationship question. It's going to be it's going to be an interesting one when I read her entire message. Um, the fact there is someone injecting drugs in people during the concert just makes me lose hope in the world. Oh my God. When I tell you, that's a lot. That's a lot to sit with, right? But to me, what it says is that how are we governing ourselves? Like, and how can we better govern ourselves, right? What level of accountability do we as individuals need to take when it comes to what it is we choose to invest in, and what it is we choose to partially invest in, and then what it is we choose to completely divest from? I think that we have to make better decisions as to how it is we govern ourselves. And as a result of how we're governing ourselves, right? What it is that we continue to do, and to what extent we continue these types of behaviors. I just feel like there are a lot of questions, and I feel like there are really no answers for why so many people were at a concert of Travis Scott's, knowing they have a history of violence, and the music in and of itself is pretty promotional of violence. I just feel like we just got to be people that say, call a thing a thing. It just is what it is. Mr. Brooks says, avoid crowds at all costs is the motto. Man, I'm telling you. Says festivals are more dangerous, too big of a crowd, and when the crowd starts to move forward, it's like a domino. I agree. Because all of these people, because a lot of these folks that were hurt, you guys, a lot of them were just trampled on. And the amount of internal bleeding and other injuries, right? What it says is that these people are not necessarily understanding the magnitude of danger that they're in by going and attending these types of events. I think that we need to be having a different conversation. But also, I feel like these young people need better guidance, better oversight. And so, even though I'm saying wake up Black people, right? I need everybody to wake up, because we're all systemically connected, and we have to understand that the impact of our music, because this is our music. I think that's an accountability part that we have to take as Black people. It's our music for a reason. Why are we so invested in promoting and supporting this type of music? Because if the music promotes hatred, anger, discord, all of these types of things, what are we doing when we're conditioning the minds and the mental wellness and emotional stability of our young people? Which, by the way, is our future. I think you have to look at the whole domino effect of it all. It's all, what do they say, butterfly or ripple effect? All of that. And why I don't feel like you guys should be wanting to be around people right now. Not that many people. The Florida Classic coming to Orlando, and so many girls asked me to come. I'm telling you, you got to do what's best for you, and you have to be a self-preservationist right now. It's really important to make sure that you preserve your own health and wellness, physically, mentally, and emotionally right now. If at any point right now. Because when we get on down to this conversation about this young lady being found in Lake Michigan, what? Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. Says young people, drugs and violence is at epic proportion due to the culture, but want, or you say not wanting to imitate a rapper's video life. I agree. So I talked about the difference between rap music of the past versus rap music of the present, right? And there is not a whole lot of difference, but I will say this: there is a lot of capping, as you young people say, in the music of today. And when those mindsets or those constructs that are rapped about inside of the rap music are now trying to be emulated, or imitated by these young people, it leads to a less congruent culture of us, because the realities are these, right? So yeah, the fast money, fast cash, fast cars, all that lifestyle comes with responsibility as well. You have to understand that if you have that, if you live that life, there are certain responsibilities that you also have equally. And so, in those other responsibilities, what you got to understand is that going to jail is kind of like a part of the process. So, you cannot kill people and expect there to be no outcome at all. You cannot sell drugs and expect there to be no outcome at all. Like, I think like these are things that we need to be talking to our children about, because I don't feel like we're clear enough. So, says no need to cancel him, but I have some questions for Live Nation. All right. Well, let me know. And I think that there is no reason to cancel him either, because Travis Scott is one person, one group, or whatever. So this is one person you guys want to cancel. And for what? You're You want to cancel what? What do you want to cancel? Because your children are still going to be emulating somebody else. It's going to be another person singing, rapping, moving around the same things, ideals. It says bad self behavior can be understood. Aside from the health issues, the long shut in drives people to act out. I agree. And so we're going to talk about a little bit of that in a moment. It's not the music. Okay. Rock music lyrics are way more violent and hateful. Some of them definitely are. Definitely are. hmm Don't blame the music, doc. But it is music. So music is an expressive means of us being and sharing our human experience, right? So music is a way for us to say, this is who I am. This is who I would like to be. This is how I'm feeling. And this is where I've come from, or this is where I'm going. If you pay attention to the lyrics of the music, that's what all music does. Rap music, lyrics. Some people rap about fighting. Some people rap about selling dope. Some people rap about having a hard life in their trauma. Some people rapping is just rhyming. Okay. It's about performing poetry, essentially. The problem is not the music in and of itself. The problem is more so the message of the music of today's society not being congruent with who these young people really are when they're in a very confused state of being in their developmental stages altogether. So what happened is they identify with this rap music, and this rap music, for a large majority of it, is pretty violent. It could get pretty violent. Um the I guess the proof in the pudding is the fact that this particular rapper, when he has had other concerts, the other concerts have all gotten pretty violent. So there is a history of the behavior from his fans. That's the part. So it's not about rap music. It's about this particular rapper's music and presentation of the music in concert, where concert has led to the same said behavior that led to these people's death. And then not having taken better precautions as a result of what we've learned about your historic concerts, right? I think it's about learning to apply what the lessons that you learn from your experiences. And obviously, he's not taking the experiences as lessons, or he's not just applying what he's learning. Who knows? I said, I've heard about some cases in the UK, girl being injected with drugs in a club setting. Yes, this is something that does happen quite often, but not only at concerts, like you mentioned, it does happen in clubs, it does happen at raves. They do still have raves. Um, it happens at parties, house parties as well. And I think that that's one of the things that we need to be talking about. I think that's one of the things that we need to be making our children more aware of. They actually have a nail polish. I'll have to get the brand. They actually have a nail polish, you guys, out for women and men. You know, nail polish is kind of universal. I know that most men will not wear it if they're straight, but it can help you in cases where you find yourself engaged and you're a person that's a socialite. You like to be on the social scene, and that's okay. Even if you know, COVID is still a thing going around here. We can all share COVID, whatever y'all want to do. So, yeah, I just won't be there. But so the nail polish is, it changes colors based off of what is in your blood system. So it's almost like an immediate talk screen. So the moment something enters your system, it kind of lets you know from your nail color. So you guys can Google it, look it up or whatever. And if you're a person that likes to go to parties and stuff like that, if you're a party goer or a clubber or a concert goer, you know, that might be something you want to invest in. You know, I don't know. I don't know, Nate. I don't know. Says my son is a rapper, not all. What do you, not all what? Says that has nothing to do with the music. In fact, how these kids are raised, white or black. And it's not just white and black kids though, but that's what I'm saying. So Travis Scott has a pretty varied audience, and I'm just going to say what it is. I mean, everywhere around the world, rap music in the United States is popular there. Everywhere. So it's not just black people, right? But it's our music, simply because this is a black rapper that we're talking about. We're not talking about an Eminem concert where this happened, because it didn't happen to him. Um it happened at a Travis Scott concert. We're not talking about even a Snoop Dogg concert, Dr. Dre concert, because obviously, you know, even though we know that some of these people had some pretty violent tendencies, and rap has historically been kind of violently expressive because people have had their own issues that they rapped about in their songs or music, sing about, whatever. People are going to do what they want to do. And I just feel like it's a self governance issue for the most part. But we do have to identify where the music does okay the behaviors, or approves or normalizes the behaviors that lead to these outcomes. It's okay. Okay. So you say there was a music concert in Vegas a few years where many country music, where many were killed. I think I heard about that. But let's talk about how many country music concerts led to people being murdered, and how many rap concerts have led to people being murdered. Let's look at what that number tells us. And then let's further analyze it. Let's go a step further. Because, like I said, you guys were here for accountability. Let's go a step further and let's talk about how many of those people who were murdered in the aftermath or during those concerts, where the performer was a black artist and where a performer was a white artist. Okay. So look that up really quick, and then come on back here and let's have a conversation. Cause I did. I did. But I now I feel like maybe you guys need to go do your homework, and let's just see what happens. See what happens. It says, maybe I'm wrong, but isn't Live Nation the concert organizers? I think it's a part of the promotion groups, promoters for concerts, but also clubs. But like I said, Nate, just let's do this research really quick and we're gonna come back and let's have a conversation. Bring me back what you got. Okay, so hold on a sec here. And you guys can continue to share your insights as we move through the topics, but I got to keep the show going because I got to get down to that relationship part. And I definitely want to be thorough with her review. So it is National Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month. What the things that you guys need to know, right, are that suicide can look a lot of different ways. Okay. Homicidal ideation can also be something that places people in a state of crisis. Below in the ticker, you guys see right now, there is an 800 number. 800-715-8255 is the National Crisis Line. This line has someone available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year to be able to assist people who find themselves in crises. Crises look like moments where people feel suicidal. So, suicidal ideation is when a person feels like they are suicidal. Suicidal ideation looks like feeling like if you were to go to sleep and never wake up again, life would be better for you because you would be waking up dead. You wouldn't be alive anymore and you wouldn't have to be in the pain that you find yourself in the moment. This is actually a lot more normative than a lot of people give it credit for being, okay? Some people hit extreme lows in their lives. You ever heard of hitting rock bottom? And when you hit rock bottom, it feels like you hit a rock literally because all of the weight of the world comes pressing down and crushing down on you at one time. And you feel like you really don't have viable options to find yourself out of, manipulate yourself out of the issues that are currently transpiring in your life. And it's a normative thing. It happens more often than not because we lose jobs, we lose relationships, we lose loved ones. And those are losses of relationships. And sometimes the grief process can be very complicated because we could be people that came up with a very rough upbringing and not had adequate supports and not had adequate attachments that give us validation in sharing our processes with them. Now, when we don't have those adequate supports, it can look pretty toxic in the aftermath because we're trying to navigate life and still trying to live, but also tussle and rustle and hustle with and through the process of grief, etc. Suicide, when we think about it in the ideation phase, sometimes we don't want to get up, don't want to do anything. We're hopeless, we're helpless. We just don't feel like life is worth living. We don't have those ambivalences in our lives. And I feel like emotional maturation has a lot to do with the process of creating more ambivalence than not. So I say emotional maturation, and I mean to recognize what your emotions are. Are you in? There are only two primary emotions, everything else is pretty much secondary. So are we congruent, right? Or do we feel pretty good? Or are we in pain, right? Pain can look a lot of ways. Can look like confusion, anger, hostility, rage, all of that, agitation, irritation. And so when we're in those places where we're feeling those primary emotions of pain, we have to recognize how valid is this pain that I feel for the moment that I am in, right? And giving that validation and welcoming it gives us space to process what we're going through and why we're in that place of pain and what its importance is to our maturation cycle. And so, because pain is a part of our process, just like wellness and feeling good is a part of our process. Um, the other part is setting healthy boundaries. Oftentimes we find ourselves hurt, our feelings hurt, and people around us hurt because we don't have healthy boundaries. Everything in your life cannot be permeable. Very much like these people who went to this Travis Scott concert and they thought to themselves, I'm going to be the exception. Things get violent, but you know what? I'm going to be able to contract for my own safety because people are going to respect me, because I'm me. I'm the exception. And now in the aftermath, we're processing the fact that people have lost their lives because in fact, there were no healthy boundaries. You have people who are continuing to invest in a concert and go to a concert because they have a false sense of security that they're going to be okay just because they are who they are. So, not because they took additional measures to make sure that they were okay, like the nail polish to make sure that they're not injected with some type of drug, like going through a metal detector or encouraging concert promoters to have metal detectors there, right? But for some insane thing in the world that says that just because you're going to be all right. Everything in your life cannot be a negotiable component. Some things have to be set in stone, and you're not moving off of those things because you recognize the things that break you down, make you feel really uncomfortable, and contribute to you hitting rock bottom. Suicidal ideation is 100% about people not having healthy boundaries, and where they have healthy boundaries, other people are not respecting those said boundaries. And as a result of those people not respecting those said boundaries, they start to feel helpless or like they don't have control even over the things that they should be controlling in life. All right. Another tip: recognizing your weaknesses and capitalizing on your strengths. So, we have to understand that we have to recognize where we are weak. And some of us are very weak at setting healthy boundaries, and we have to recognize that that's a weakness for us. As a result, we have to capitalize on the people that are resources for us to have healthier lives, go through the process of therapy, talk to family members who are older than us and wise, right? Do the things that we need to do for ourselves as a result of that. Invest in ourselves because we're really good at investing in ourselves. Let's invest in our entire selves. Become more educated and aware about what this looks like, how to identify things, what to do when we see other people who are struggling, who to call, making plans to make sure that we have everything we need to keep ourselves congruent and the people that are attached to us congruent as well. Okay. The next one is understand the difference between self reflective spaces that are healthy versus those toxic spaces where we're now isolating. Isolation is where we pull back or we fall back, as you guys say, from a situation because the situation causes us significant discomfort or pain, right? And we still have feelings, but we are invalidated in that process. And sometimes that leads to feeling hopeless and helpless because you don't feel like you can express or convey what you're feeling, what you're thinking, the directionality that you want to take a thing because you don't feel like it'll be validated and received properly and processed properly by someone that you're giving it to. So you have to sometimes find new ways to, recognize that, okay, I'm just isolating now. And the easiest way to recognize is if it's a self-reflective space that's healthy, you're not judgmental of yourself and your process. You're able to identify what went wrong about these situations where you chosen to divest. For example, the concert situation, right? Or as you guys are going to find out in just a moment, this relationship situation that this young lady sent in her relationship advice request for. We have to understand where we stepped in the wrong direction and what we did in the wrong direction because it's wrong, only because it's not conducive to where we want to go. Okay. Everything doesn't have to be right or wrong personally, but it has to be in the right or the wrong direction for the outcome we're trying to achieve. So align ourselves with realistic goals. And when we see that we've stepped in a direction that's not conducive of those goals, recognize that, okay, This is what I've done. And as a result, I'm going to divest from that thing. And I'm going to focus on myself in a healthy way. And it's not my fault. It's not someone else's fault. And this isn't me isolating, because there isn't a whole lot of pressure in that space. Isolation looks like there's a lot of pressure in that space. And as a result, we feel depressed, lonely, isolated, don't feel like we have supports. Got it? Um, hey Nate. You know what? I agree. I agree, Jenny. You definitely do. Right. Hey Nate, let's go back to my conversations. We did that one, healthy boundaries, understanding the difference between self-reflective spaces. Okay, this one. Choose wisely but truthfully. Choose wisely what you are engaging in. Govern yourself accordingly. And be true to yourself about why it is that you're choosing the things that you're choosing to have a part of your process, right? Be honest with yourself about the things in you that create negative spaces or invite negative people into your space, so that energy isn't all that productive, right? So that's what that is about. Govern yourself accordingly. And then you won't find yourself in these cycles where you're spiraling because you're very regretful about the things that you've done previously in your life. But when you do find that you're regretful, understand there is hope. There is always light on the other end of the tunnel. And utilize the crisis line phone number. Like I said, 800-715-8255. More importantly, trust in the process. Trust in the process that life will yield only experiences that you are meant to have in your life. And as a result of those experiences, you are meant to have lessons that are impactful enough for you to apply to your future. And that is the only reason that we are living this thing called life. Life is about learning. And if we're not learning from each experience, no matter how pleasant or uncomfortable, then we are doing what we're supposed to be doing while we're here, and we're living a purpose-filled life then. Okay? Trust in the process that life will not yield anything that you're not meant to go through, and understand that whatever seems difficult, eventually you will kind of come out of that thing, and you'll be in more productive spaces or more comfortable spaces. Okay? Let's see. Those concerts were similar to this one, people's falling and getting trampled. You know what? I agree. I feel like the falling and trample, so people falling and being trampled on, I think that comes from concerts being overcrowded, right? But there is a whole different thing when people can see that they're trampling all over people, and there is a force field of human beings, human bodies, right? Making contact with others, and them with that force folding other people underneath them and then trampling them as a result of the violent excitement that comes with the egging on, if you will, of a Travis Scott concert. I think that he's got to do things a little bit differently. What I do commend the young man on, though, I commend him on being very transparent as he's going through his process of this trauma in the aftermath of the event. I commend him for taking accountability and not necessarily responsibility and contributing to the burial of these young people that lost their lives, right? And, here's the thing. I think that people have to be very realistic and understand that he's not responsible for anything. When you choose to attend a concert, we have to take responsibility for not governing ourselves accordingly if we find ourselves in harm's way at a concert where there are tons of people. If a concert is sold out, they post it everywhere. So you know whether it's safe for you to attend or not based off of the type of concert you're going to, what type of history this performance crowd typically brings, and what you are about as a person, how well you can contract for your own safety. What are some of the patterns about yourself? So I feel like it has to do with self-governance. I got to go back to that because this young man, although not responsible for the deaths of these people are looking to cancel him simply because a thing happened at his concert where he was doing what he's paid to do. People are going to do what people do. If people don't start taking accountability for their own actions, we're going to be a nation of folks looking to blame somebody left and right, and nobody's ever going to be satisfied. Nobody's ever going to be in a place to where they can benefit from the experience called life and learn any lessons, because there's nothing to be learned where somebody else is responsible for it. Because it's not our stuff, it's somebody else's stuff. It's easy to hand off, the point the finger and all of that. We have to take accountability to ourselves for what we expose ourselves to, what we allow to become a part of our processes and our energy centers, and as a result, what we put out into the atmosphere. So let's talk about this. A young woman was discovered in Lake Michigan. Her name is Yariana Wheeler, and I'm hoping that I'm getting that right. My condolences go out to the family. She was recently discovered just this past weekend. So I know that you guys are still processing. And you guys know that when I bring you these stories, I try to be as sensitive as possible because I realize that families need time to not only to process, but to grieve, especially when a family member has been missing for a length of time. This young lady went missing in August. We're in November. She was a young black pregnant female, and I think what she was 21. Let me look at my no correction. She was 19, and her suitor, her boyfriend, is the person that has been arrested. He was arrested last night, I think, and he's 21 years old. This happened in Chicago, you guys. So, a couple of things that I want to talk about in this particular case, okay? Says right, blame is on the individuals, not the music industry, not security, not the promoters. So there is no blame at all. I want to make sure I make that very clear. So there is no blame. I think there is accountability that needs to be taken until we know what and who caused these murders and how, or should I say, deaths, and whether or not there was intent behind those, malicious intent behind those particular events. So it's all too fresh right now for us to know the specifics around that component. But what I will say is this: blaming is not conducive. It's not conducive at all. We have to understand the behaviors that lead to the types of environments that cause these types of incidents. Um, so yeah, that part. Accountability is us just taking accountability and assigning the fact, calling a thing a thing. A concert happened. I was at said concert when I lost my life, when I was injured, when XYZ started to happen, right? And I was doing XYZ. Okay? Just the accountability part. We're not really, the whole blame thing, it just doesn't really, it's not conducive. Just saying. I do, like I said, I appreciate the fact that Travis Scott is paying for these young people to be buried. And I think he's doing the right thing. But I think that we also need to understand that doesn't mean that he's taking responsibility, because he's not responsible for this. The larger thing is that this young man has experienced trauma firsthand from a viewpoint where he's able to observe it all happening slowly in front of him. I am concerned for him. I am equally concerned for the people who were a part of that audience where they were being pushed, trampled over, like the young lady that I spoke about, her and her boyfriend going there together. these are things for me that are really important that we have the conversation around this, for, because these people are going to be traumatized longitudinally. And how does that affect a person's ability to reacclimate themselves to an environment that's very much engaging their social desire or social scene desires? Because obviously they enjoyed the social scene because they were at this concert. High risk, by the way. Um, exactly, Mr. Brooks. Hey Rush, what's going on? What are your thoughts about the concert and the cancel culture around Travis Scott situation from this weekend? And this situation that also unfolded this weekend. But so let's look at this. So Yariana Wheeler, last month was Domestic Violence Awareness Month, you guys. Intimate partner violence happens more often than we like to give it credit in the Black community because we like to normalize negative behaviors with negative outcomes instead of giving people viable ways to be their best advocate, their own advocate, to be in healthy engagements. That's just what it is. This young woman was big and pregnant, okay? 8 months, 9 months pregnant. I have kids this girl's age. Okay. And it was just, the way that it sat with me. And I'm like, oh my God, why? Right? We have got to do better. We have got to do better. Yes, the boyfriend is definitely the person being held on the suspicion of killing her. He was 21 years old. And these are the things that I'm going to talk about. Um yeah. Russia's remaining sucker free. But here's the thing, you guys. I think that this is like it's a pattern of behavior now. It's a whole thing. These young men get with these young women, and I don't understand how this really happens, but these young men use the credit cards of these young women after they have murdered them or after they've disappeared and think that that's not a direct. I know I grew up in the days where, Matlock was a thing, okay? It was one of the best TV shows that probably ever hit. Perry Mason, right? So I would think that what are some of the shows that I feel like people should have access to now to help them understand? There is How to Get Away with Murder. There is CSI Miami, CSI Vegas, CSI everybody. Okay? I'm not saying that this young man should have gotten away with the murder of this young lady, but to kill a woman that is pregnant, this is us. These are our young Black people. And, it's one thing to kill your girlfriend altogether, but another thing to kill this woman while she's pregnant. So, based off of the timeline and what has been collected as far as evidence to go towards the allegations of her boyfriend being the killer in this scenario, I'm not sure if he's the child's father or not. That's not been confirmed. But what's confirmed is that Yariana was in the water, they say, 7 to 12 days. However, she was last seen shortly after August 10th. So I don't know what to make of all of this. Seen being dropped off at the beach where she's meeting him by an Uber. driver and the Uber, they have video footage surveillance. There are cameras everywhere, folks. There are cameras everywhere. And there are digital footprints every single where. So not place, every single where. So digital footprints are when you swipe your credit card, cryptocurrency card, whatever you're going to do, right? Yes, it was a black girl. It was a black guy. Why? What? Why? Why? She was these are babies, but what this tells me is that we are not doing our due diligence when it comes to the proper conditioning of our young people. We're not giving them enough skill sets for them to go out there and create healthy relationships and thrive in a world that, we want to say is very much against them. It's not the friggin' world. It's us. We're against them by way of not giving them what they need to be healthy and congruent in their relationships, not giving them proper ways to deal with their distress and their anger and hostility and frustration. This young lady's call record showed that she called him 25 times after they had an argument, and there was a movie theater date that they were on where he left, and allegedly she went back in and blah, blah, blah. Ladies, if he does not respond, let him go. Men, period. Men, if she does not respond, let her go. When I say there is one thing that Rush says on here that I feel like so applies, stay sucker free needs to be stay away from, divest from relationships if you are not emotionally mature to find yourself in one and being a healthy component that contributes to someone else in said relationship. Okay? If your way of handling your distress and your arguments is to put your hand on your girlfriend, is to push them while pregnant, is to do those things, just don't answer at all. Do not answer at all. This young lady should be alive. She should be alive right now. Instead, her parents, her siblings, her cousins, her aunts, uncles, grandparents, these folks are having to bury this baby and her baby. And I don't even know if she was already a mom of other kids or, what, but you don't know if she was pregnant with one baby or two babies. I just feel like it's just all very sad. Okay. And the realities are these: people need to learn how to keep their hands to themselves and not contribute to the negative outset, the negative outcomes of other people's emotional stability. Like, you guys got to learn how to accept rejection. Ladies, men, understand everybody is not going to be for you, not for a lifetime. Maybe that man only came into your life and he was only meant to be there for this small season, this short season. And once this season is over, and that's 3 months, ladies. Once those 3 months are over, it's meant for him to roll on through life and get on to the next thing, and so are you. But you cannot have life if you continue to try to keep people in your life that are not meant to be there anymore. There is no way that I could put it plainer. It's just no way. Sometimes you got to love a person enough to let go, because really that's not love. It's infatuation. I continue to have this conversation with people everywhere all the time because I don't think that young people, young Black people especially, know the difference between infatuation and love, needs versus desires. These are things that Black parents, Black homes have got to start investing in teaching the lessons about, because until we do that, this will keep coming up as our outcome. You don't need everything that's out there. Maybe you just want it. Why do you need that thing? What does that thing contribute to you longitudinally? Answer that question. How is that thing going to better your experience moving forward where you've defined clear and concise and realistic outcomes or goals for life? Right? So ask yourself those questions. Like, stop trying to make somebody stay where they're no longer invested. Like, when do you guys stop taking these content creators' toxicity from Cynthia G, Kevin Samuels, and all of those people and feeling like you have less worth than you actually do, and step in a place where you realize you're worth it? She shouldn't be dead. She just shouldn't. These are the things that stood out for me. Let's just talk about some of the common sense principles that I feel like this young man just failed to recognize. A, okay, there are cameras everywhere. Cameras everywhere. B, digital footprints will tell a story that you cannot divest from and can't lie about. Okay. They will tell your truth when you don't want your truth to be told. Just because you don't have access to it doesn't mean that the feds don't have access to it or your local county government officials don't have access to it. Okay. This young lady took an Uber. Uber is a digital footprint, sir. It's a digital footprint, sir. And it's a live person that's a witness. It's a liability, sir. So this young man states, and the Uber driver obviously saw you. Camera saw you walking on the beach with this young lady, pregnant young lady, and saw you. Cameras, this is the biggest part, y'all. Come on. Come on, get a seat. Pull up. Share this. Cameras catch you after meeting with the young lady, walking on the beach with the young lady for a period of time, coming back off the beach by your damn self with her pink purse. Just said to you and I, it's obvious, but to a young person, it's not. But there's a reason that it's not to a young person. When I was a young person, it was very obviously obvious to me. Just gonna say, I never had a problem with letting go. That's never been an issue for me, ever. It's about parental oversight, teaching. My parents, grandparents, uncles, all of those people, my older cousins, all of those people taught me that when somebody don't want you, you need to move on. When you don't want somebody, you need to articulate that and move on. Either way, you need to be clear, concise, and not wait for the outcome. What you there for? I'm a naysayer. Okay, you know how many people I've turned down in my life? Like, literally, I'm not staying there for your outcome because I'm not here for you. Not here for you and you're crazy. Whatever happens in the aftermath of me divesting, I am gone. You can react and you can punch and hit and shoot whatever you want as long as I'm not there. So you got to understand how to make these things work for you guys. You got to move into places and spaces that allow you to appreciate yourself a little bit more. So that starts with the parents doing their job in parenting. Parenting doesn't stop when your child turns 18. Parenting is a conditional element of human nature. So that means you have to keep doing it because your friggin' kid's going to continue to be a human being. So are you. So you have to continue to do that. You have to continue to talk to your kids, counsel them. You understand what I'm saying? Give them proper advisements on their situations and all of that stuff so that they can remain congruent and they don't find themselves in situations like this. That's the solution. Okay? Yeah. The fact that she called him 25 times, her call log says she called him 25 times, you guys. Like, So Mr. Brooks says, women beware of these emotional men because they deadly. All men are emotional because men have been taught to be emotionally suppressive for so long that once they get to a place that where they need to express, they need to release that emotional tension, they don't know productive ways to do that because they've not been taught those productive ways. So let's see what Rush says about the concert. He says he should be more careful when he throws concerts. He's definitely liable for many lawsuits, and the culture he's involved is moving towards the rock star lifestyle and promoting violence and moss pits. Okay, so I do think that you're right. But I think that in those lawsuits, I think he's going to definitely win because it's not his responsibility to keep his people safe if he don't know for sure that threats have been made to harm people's physical being or to kill someone, right? So there's that. Says for one, their brains are not developed to the point to actually know the difference between right and wrong. Yes, they are. They're developed enough. It's just not conditioned. So I can agree with Rush on that one. Stay away from crazy. Says it's a brain developmental issue sometimes, Doc. It's not. It's not. No. There's nothing wrong with this kid. Nada. The only thing wrong with him is that he was raised in a culture that says that he can get away and have whatever he wants because he's a man and he was born with a penis. And maybe that he's smarter than smart because a lot of these kids with this egocentricism, they live well into their young adulthood holding on to identity crisis that starts at age 14. So when you talk about brain maturation and emotional maturation, it has to do with the parents doing their job. Parents must do their part. Like that's an essential component. It's like expecting a baby to learn how to talk without anybody teaching them to talk or giving them direct observation, right? It's like expecting a baby to walk without anybody giving them modeling behavior and teaching them how to stand first, sit up first, crawl first, putting them on their tummy appropriately. It's expecting a baby to survive in life without having adult supervision and oversight that helps promote the next phase of life. So, a baby, when they become a toddler, it's no longer a liability. So what are you telling me that you guys are expecting your children to get everything they need without you being a parent from then on? It's anything but your fault. I can guarantee you, and you're going to see this unfold, right? The wonderful thing is that when I tell these stories, a lot of folks don't understand. You're really not listening, you're not paying attention. I can guarantee you that once this young man goes through a competency hearing, he will be found liable to stand as a competent person to be charged of this crime of murdering this young lady by a psychological evaluator. You want to know why? He will not have a mental retardation or any other issues that prevent him to be held criminally liable for whatever it is that he's done. Okay? Two, this young man, once found criminally liable, I can guarantee you that there will be no parents that are sitting there talking about, oh, I raised my baby right. Oh, I didn't know he knows better than that. Because they never talked about these things with him, because they never thought that it would be important, because Black people seem to think too often that some things are just common sense, not conditioned sense. So there is a difference. Common sense is even conditioned sense. So I have to express that to people oftentimes so you guys understand a person's common sense comes from what they're exposed to, the behaviors that are modeled for them in their environment and their culture and their family of origin, all of these things. You have to pick up a book and read. Sometimes you have to sit down and listen. You have to have yourself seated between spaces where you've got knowledge going into this ear, wisdom going into this ear, and observation coming out and going in to your brain from here. So that's how the person is conditioned. That's what makes a person a person. With the absence of all of this, you have the chaos. I don't know. Says, I know a woman right now that her boyfriend beat her. Now he in jail and she's sleeping in his daddy's house in his room waiting for him to get out, and he got over a year to do. I totally agree. I totally agree. Because we have definitely normalized and okayed it. We've invited the constant violent cycles and nobody ever wakes up. That's why I tell people all the time, like, we think And so many Black people walk through life thinking that therapy is not for them. They don't need therapy because therapy is for weak people, it's for the weak minded. You're not strong enough and it doesn't help. And you're just talking to somebody, blah, blah, blah. But the realities are, until we find an external, the professional viewpoint to look at our lives from, we'll never know what we really are doing to ourselves to harm ourselves and keep ourselves in places to where we can't grow and elevate. We will remain constant at this state where we're just a little bit okay, right? And that's not okay. It really isn't. Says these young women think a punch is love, right? Says that part of the brain doesn't develop at a certain point in order to... Okay, so a child, a child's brain at age 5 is developed enough to know the difference between right and wrong. A child's brain at age 11 is now capable of very complex cognitive arranging, right? And so we call that complex problem solving. That's that age. That's the age. So the reality is this: we have a basic understanding, and then we have a more expanded understanding of the world around us as we move through different phases of life. But if we're not conditioned to also soak in and process the experiences that life throws our way with people who are responsible for guiding, molding, shaping, cultivating us, we don't grow into the next phase of life. We have too many Black people that believe in enabling their children further by way of trying to overcompensate, or enabling their children further by saying that they're not intelligent enough to soak up the information. There is just no excuses for the lack of congruence, and there are no excuses for the lack of accountability in the Black community. I'm sorry. There are no excuses. There are no exceptions to the types of behaviors you're talking about. It's just people doing, people making a decision to do instead of think about, sit on, and make an excuse for. So that's the difference between productive Black people and non-productive Black people. Successful, unsuccessful Black people. That's just what it is. Says no, that isn't love, but some women need a little to be a little smarter and notice the signs. I agree. And we're going to talk about some of those when I read you guys this component right here. So, you think that it's basic human instincts. Okay. Okay. So if you think that common sense is basic human instincts, right? Explain to me why what's common in the hood in America, right, is not common in the hood in China. And why two people from those two different cultures, if set in those different cultures, the opposite cultures, right? Why they can't function from the common sense of said culture. Why can Black people not go to China and use chopsticks? Because that's common sense for them. They really don't have to be taught. There's a modeling behavior component, right? Or so you maybe think. Some men just are abusive, and then it is run. Now, Jenny, I do think that some people have a natural tendency to be very violent, to be very abusive, but I think a lot of times, sometimes we welcome certain behaviors into our lives, but, you know, we don't do our part. We don't do the vetting part completely, right? So it's a lot of layers. So let's get to this relationship advice segment, you guys. This comes from Tamara. I'm not sure if it's Tamara or Tamara, but you gotta forgive me because I'm not all that great at names. I'm gonna open up your email really quickly here. put this screen here. So it says, "Hi, Dr. J. My name is Tamara, whichever one you guys prefer. And I am a 36-year-old married biracial female living in Atlanta. My husband and I have been together for 14 years and been married for 6. That's interesting. So we've had that conversation a bit, you guys, but wait. He had 6 children by various women, and I recently discovered this after he told me he would only marry me years ago if I agreed to not have kids and undergo a surgery, which I did to ensure we never got pregnant. His oldest is 12, and this woman has 3 kids by him. He tells me he loves me and will never leave me, but this woman had to call me wow, and link me to all of the other baby mamas. Good God. Because he refused to give her money for another car this past weekend. My heart is aching because I have sacrificed a lot for him and have been practicing law to take care of us both while he was depleting my savings. Whoa. By taking care of all of these women. I found out that our investment properties are not collecting rent payments because he has those different women living in them. And he has been taking every dime I've saved for our retirement and giving it to them and the various mortgages. Well, at least he's paying the mortgage. I need to know what is best now because I feel like I have no worth and dumb a bit to the point I can't talk to my sorors or parents about this. I haven't told him that I know either. What do I do? Well, you guys. Oh, all right. Husband and her been together for 14 years, married for 6. So let's do the quick math. 14 minus 6, what's that? 8 years of time invested prior to marriage happening. You're saying that he tells me he loves me, never leave. Woman had to call me and lead me to the baby mamas. No. Years ago. Okay. I agreed to not have kids. Okay, so you're saying basically, so if you've only been married for 6 years, that gives you the 8 years invested prior to the marriage happening. I'm curious as to how many years were you guys invested at the point that he asked you to not have any children and to get a surgery done to make sure you couldn't have kids. Couple of things I'm really curious about here is it's just so many layers, right? So we're going to start from the top. The first layer is the fact that you are in a relationship with someone for over 2 years and you guys haven't had a serious conversation about what relational goals look like, right? To the point where you know that there is a pending proposal essentially at this point, because that's what a healthy relationship would look like. The amount of time that we give to people, you guys, is reflective of how much we value that said time. The fact that you are a practicing attorney here in Atlanta says that you have tons of options. You don't have any children, you're successful apparently, you've been milked apparently, and you're probably going to lose a lot of money. I don't know, unless you use this situation to get your divorce, because apparently he's not working, and I'm just assuming he's not working. The fact that he's been depleting all your money tell me that something is going on. He got, how many baby mamas does he have? Did she say how many baby mamas? No. He has 6 kids by various women. So he has 3 kids by the oldest at 12. I would ask the question, how did you not know he was with someone else? And he, good God, that's a lot of children. Oh, well, Tamara, let's see what everybody else is saying. I got a lot of thoughts. So Jen says, excuse my French, but I think most people know that you can't kill your girlfriend and throw her in the river. Oh, regardless. Right. That's a lot. Let's see what Nate's saying. Not true about the teenage brain, Doc. This pruning process begins in the back of the brain. The front of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, is remodeled last. The prefrontal cortex is the decision making part of the brain responsible for your child's ability to plan and think out consequences of action and solve problems. Of course, change in a part of the brain continues, and actually changes in that part of the brain continues until people are dead most of the time. Your prefrontal cortex is always processing and reprocessing and restoring new experiences and new outcomes, new options for experiences based off of what experiences you've had. Remember, we talked about conditioning yourself and learning lessons. Like literally, that's what your prefrontal cortex is. That's where it's storing those experiences or those lessons, should I say. Your hippocampus is where it starts. So experiences are typically received by the lower brain and then sent up so that the processing can be done by those wonderful side components and stored in the prefrontal cortex or discarded when you're in REM sleep. So technically, and this does start and it does continue over the course from age 11, or should we say adolescent, because some people go through that before age 11, like young girls typically go through that at age 9. However, neuroplasticity is a continuous process for women. Um, from, based on our recent studies, a couple of years ago, it was released, the last longitudinal study, the male versus the female brain. You should go look at the study outcomes that I've posted on this page that you're viewing from. But that's the part about neuroplasticity continuing, and the onset of dementia and Alzheimer's reduced as a possibility in women versus men, because women continue to have expanded neuroplasticity over the course of a lifetime versus the male brain. But that's your lesson in developmental psychology and the neuroscience behind it all. Hmm. And no, that is a misunderstanding. Teenagers do not rely on the amygdala to make decisions and problem solve. The amygdala only comes to presentation and only responds when you are in a situation of fight and flight. That is your part of your brain. Those are the two organs and kind of like the mid center of your brain that are responsible for controlling your anxiety gauge, anxiety and depression. It's like a gas gauge. Also did a show on that, and a physical demonstration of the model of the brain, if you will, as well, and talked about the effects of substance use and how it affects our brain's capacity to store and move oxygen flow around, oxygenation in the blood, oxygenation in the brain, and how mental illness starts, and how you can start healing mental illness by way of being more proactive and doing healthy things and feeding your brain foods and nutrients and you know, those wonderful supplements and stuff. So, yes, and the amygdala is associated with emotional impulses and aggression, because it is your what's referred to as your reptilian brain. So you got some truths and some untruths or misunderstandings there. Also, brain science, always look at neuroscience research outcomes in order for you to understand how your brain works. The latest developments are always on, what is that? PubMed. So you have to know which internet sources are reliable. It says, and there is legal precedent that kids have gotten away with crimes based on this. You know, that's one of the main reasons why children can be charged as adults when they commit crimes. We have two 14-year-old girls that were charged as adults and convicted as adults for killing their mother at age 14 here in Atlanta a couple of years ago. We also have additional cases where children have been charged as adults in the murder of and victimizing of other school age friends. I think there's a recent study, what was it a recent case last week where these kids were responsible for luring and murdering another kid, and they're all going to be charged as adults. No, that one I think was in London, but the one that where the kids are going to be charged as adults at the high school was the killing of the Spanish teacher. And those are teenagers as well, between the ages of 14 and 17, and a group of them got together and killed their Spanish teacher. And they're currently going to be they've been charged as adults. They're going to be prosecuted as adults. They killed her in the park and left her in the park. Might want to look that up too. But yeah, no, there are no excuses. So it's the rental property for me, and don't play with money. I don't know. What are you guys feeling about this relationship advice segment? Says if they are using the emotion part of their brains, they won't make the decision on their adult. I got news for you, Nate. You probably need to go in and review quite a few of these videos that I've done here recently. So even though the emotion part of your brain is used for a lot of your functioning, your executive functioning is typically not, you know, activating your amygdala. And your amygdala is typically in response to high stress or high distress, whether it's high on this end or low on this end, like things that make you depressed. You see that in the case where the mother was convicted. It's another show that I did. The mother was convicted of killing her children, putting them in the freezer. She still was convicted, right? You're seeing that in situations where in that particular mother, might I add, let's talk about that. That particular mother was finding out that her daughter was responsible for sexually molesting her 5-year-old son for years. And her son, who was 9 at the time, was also responsible for sexually molesting that same 5-year-old kid for years, right? But the daughter, who was 13, was sexually molesting all of them, all of the kids, like, in a cycle. And the mother, in more of a fit of rage, over the course of days, actually, she killed the 9-year-old because she didn't know she was killing him. So she didn't do that intentionally, but she killed the daughter intentionally. And these are her own admissions, by the way. These are facts from the mom's mouth. The evidence also aligns and confirms the facts that mom gave in court. So there's that, right? So that is her amygdala action, in responding. And the mom was what, 40 something years old in that case? She's still serving out the consecutive life sentences. She's never getting out. And that's a whole nother story, because here recently, what was it, last week, end of last week, Friday or something like that, the father, right? But this is a white family. And you guys, I'm just kind of giving you guys this background because obviously Nate hasn't done his wonderful research on this channel. But this white family, this man rescued his daughter. I think it was in Seattle. He drove to Seattle to rescue his daughter from sex trafficking by her boyfriend at the hands of her boyfriend. After rescuing his daughter, found out that the boyfriend had sold her into the sex trafficking ring. He went, grabbed, and tortured the boyfriend and killed him and put him in his own trunk, and then went and parked the car at the middle of COVID. I think the guy has been over it's been the body had been there for over a year. Parked the car and got away with it. Scot free. Yeah, and I think they had on the news today his arraignment. Yeah. So yeah, this is that. And he admitted to that as well. He admitted cuz he had told some of the neighbors that he killed him, how he killed him. And I guess the neighbors didn't believe him. But when the police started looking around and sniffing around, and they started talking about this body that was discovered by these other kids because they smelled it, the dog kept sniffing. That's when, they went kind of talking about and tracing the fact that the car was registered to the girlfriend, which was his stepdaughter, I believe. And, oh no, it was his daughter and the stepmother. They interviewed them, let them go the first time. And that's when the neighbors said, "Oh no, you guys probably need to go back there because he killed him. He told us this is what he did." And so yeah, there's that. That was his amygdala, by the way, acting. But now he's on trial for first degree murder. It is what it is. But so there's that part. Oh, I know you told me. I'm not really a fan of Dominican Republic. It's a lot of things that go on there, and yeah. But I take vacations as needed. So let's try and get back to this girl's relationship advice topic. I know I got off, topic for a minute, kind of reviewing those older comments, but I want to do this and wrap this show up. Okay. So Tamara, Mr. Brooks said it was the rental property for him. So I feel like for me, that is definitely one, but I think that there are layers. I think it's your time invested. That's the first thing that I want to address. And anybody watching this in the aftermath, I'm going to read her relationship advice segment question one more time so you guys know what we're talking about here. Says, "Hi, Dr. J. My name is Tamara or Tamara. I don't know how to pronounce it. And I am a 36-year-old married biracial female living in Atlanta. My husband and I have been together for 14 years and been married for 6. He has 6 children by various women, and I recently discovered this after he told me he would only marry me years ago if I agreed to not have kids and undergo a surgery, which I did to ensure we never got pregnant. His oldest is 12, and this woman has 3 kids by him. He tells me he loves me and will never leave me, but this woman had to call me and link me to all of the other baby mamas because he refused to give her money for another car this past weekend. My heart is aching because I have sacrificed a lot for him and have been practicing law to take care of us both while he has depleted my savings by taking care of all of these women." I mean, like it's a bunch of women, but no, seriously. I guess it could be 4 women, right? Um, Says, "I found out that our investment properties are not collecting rent payments because he has those different women living in them, and he has been taking every dime I save for our retirement and giving it to them in the various mortgages. I need to know what is best now because I feel like I have no worth and dumb a bit to the point I can't talk to my sorors or parents about this. I haven't told him that I know either. What do I do?" So, the fact that you have allowed this person to suck up so much of your energy and time, right? Um, it's that for me. It's the amount of time you've been with him and you didn't know the fact that you didn't know that he had this woman pregnant, because that says that So you really thought, did you really think he didn't have any kids? Is my first question. My second question is, did he have these extramarital children before you guys were officially married? That's my next question, because you guys have only been married, even though you've been together for 14 years, there are a lot of things that can go on in a relationship. Because relationships can last for 14 years and you can be in and out, right? So I don't know if this guy cheated on you to get these kids or if they were done kind of in between you guys being together. Very much like kind of the Gabrielle and Dwayne Wade love child thing, right? I personally feel like you guys play too much in these relationships. I'm just going to call a thing a thing. You play too much in these relationships. You want to play married, you want to play wife, and you want to play husband, you want to play house. And then you get upset when the outcomes are not what you're looking for. Okay. You have to be realistic about your goals in your relationships. You have to be realistic about your expectations in your relationship. You got to be realistic with yourself about what you want out of life. If you want something out of life, go get it. Do not be with someone who will dumb down or block your shine or dim your light, right? You have to be with people that help to promote your congruence, that help to elevate you, that make you feel more worth it. That's what's necessary. That's happiness. That's being happy, people. You're responsible for keeping you congruent and happy, but your partner is responsible for navigating life through all of the difficulties with you to help you become more passionate and more driven about becoming you and being autonomous and unapologetic about it, right? So they can love on you more and so they can acknowledge you more and so they can elevate you more. It's not about him going out here having all these babies. I would want to know what the ages of these kids are, because I feel like a man can't cheat on you if you're not his wife and you guys are in and out of relationships and there is no stability there. So I don't want to hold him to that, but I definitely want to hold him accountable for the things that I can see very clearly. In the aftermath of you being married, if you had any of these 6 kids, then, and even before you being married, I think having the conversation with you where he's now in charge of your body. If you wanted kids, you should have been able to have children. If he knew, and I know he knew he had these kids, I know the kids just didn't drop out of the friggin' air. Oh, I'm 12 years old. Hey, daddy. Oh, me too. I'm 6. Hey, daddy. I'm 7. Hey, daddy. Right. So I just want to say, my heart goes out to you, because at the end of the day, there are some things that I think are basic constructs of healthy relationships. And I don't know if you just didn't have them, but it sounds like you have a healthy family because you don't want to go to them and tell them that this has happened to you. Lean and depend on your sorors. And if you're an AKA, I don't know. Lean on your understanding and your knowledge of the law, and get your divorce based off of this stuff. Get this woman to write a statement that allows you to exit from this relationship without further financial abuse. Because right now, this man could love you through the ends of the earth. If he has had those kids over the course of him being married to you, just go. Any of them. Because it doesn't matter how much you say that you love a person, your actions should indicate that you love a person. And when you love a person, even though there are some things that you will do to betray them, there are some things that are no goes. You have to have healthy boundaries. I talked about that earlier today. Healthy boundaries are what keeps us healthy, congruent, and continuing to mature through the different phases of life that make us the best versions of us. Literally. Invest in yourself, believe in yourself, know that you are worth it, and decide to divest from situations and people that keep you held in spaces where it's uncomfortable, smothering, and you can't be your most powerful and empowered self, right? Um that's all I can tell you. You got to figure out what you're going to do about this money part, though, cuz I'm curious about how long he's had these people living here. What does that look like? Like, there are, I'm in Georgia as well in Atlanta, so there is a process to evicting people, and that can sometimes be very difficult. I hope that you figure that out, get the dispossessory process going, and get these people out of your properties. That's number one. Figure out what it is that you want out of your life moving forward. I understand now that you can't have kids. There are a lot of men that don't want kids though. So go find you a good man that don't want children, because here's the thing. The fact that this man kept these 6 kids from you and told you not to have any kids, he didn't want any kids. If Dana say all of these 6 kids are his, girl, go. Run. Quickly. Get these people out of your house. Take your life back. Find yourself more congruent with yourself so that you will be able to present yourself in waiting as a lady for your husband when he does come and show up in your life, because this ain't it. Like, literally, he's not it. He is not it. It's not him. So let's see. Mr. Brooks says she's crazy for getting with someone with so much drama and she didn't meet all the mothers before marriage. But that's what I'm saying. He doesn't know that she knows he have these kids. That's what she's saying. He don't even know that she know he got these kids. He don't even know. He don't even know. The baby mama of 3 of the babies then told her about the other baby mamas and called the baby. Let me tell you ladies something. Yeah, I don't even believe. Stop snitching so much. Like, if you're a woman out there and you're a side chick and you know this man has a woman and you're out here having babies, I'm gonna go around the room with accountability. All of you wrong, because you don't want somebody doing that stuff to you. Like, good grief. Said who she married, Stevie J. I don't know. I just he must have had a lot of money. At what point? At what point? A lot of money for some baby mamas, right, Nate? Like, but I feel like to some extent I gotta hold her accountable too, because you gave him all these years prior to being married, and then you got a medical procedure to make sure you didn't have children for him. I'm just hoping that that's not permanent. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, because that's a sensitive thing to take the woman's right to do what she's naturally created to do. I just, you know, like, I can't have no kids no more, but I got a bunch of kids, all right? Got a lot of them. Okay. But I just feel like when that's taken away from you, that's just, it just hits a lot differently. And I mean, I'm a person that didn't want children beforehand. So I believe 100% wholeheartedly in investing in my man, my husband, and meeting his needs. But at some point, you've got to put your needs at the forefront, when it comes, because if you desire children and that's kind of like the natural capacity of a woman, I don't know, you just got to really, you got to give some thought to this process, because this man has had children with a bunch of other women but not you, putting them in your house, taking your money, because this is literally your money. This is, you could sue him. You could sue him for your money. You're a lawyer, girl. Get it together and sue him. Get your money back for the empty investment, because and all of the money, I would lock down those accounts. You know what? Take the rest of your money, whatever money you got, because this guy sounds so harsh. Like, take the rest of your money that you have, put it in a separate account by yourself, and rebuild, restructure, but definitely leave. And I know you're going to need closure. That's very important. And I have to say, it's easy to say on the surface, like, oh, just leave. Oh, you just got to leave. You just got to leave. Right. But take your time and process and be by yourself. Okay. You definitely should leave though. And I know you're going to need closure, right, Jenny? But give yourself some time to kind of go through the process and get yourself together because you deserve that. You deserve the space where you're able to account for who you are at this phase of your life and what comes next for you. And whatever that is, you deserve it. Um and I mean, I'm so curious about so many things. So many things. But what I want to say to somebody that's out there watching and listening to this, if you're in a relationship with somebody and this man hasn't proposed to you even, and I know people have them long-term engagements and stuff. That's a whole nother thing. But he's not even talked about marriage, hasn't even proposed to you. I understand this is a climate where a lot of people are divesting from the idea of marriage because they don't see the benefit longitudinally, right? But if that's not where you're going, and you know that that's what you desire, right? Leave him. Leave him because he does not fit. Remember I talked about those seasons. Like he doesn't fit this season. Like you got summertime and winter. That's not going to work. You're going to have a tornado. That's what it leads to. You know, the heat and the cold pressure. Like what we doing? Make a mental and emotional investment in yourself. Get yourself a good therapist, girl. Leave him. Take your money. Pray. Meditate. Get your energy together. Don't hurt nobody. Don't hurt yourself. Love yourself. Know you're worth it. Words of affirmation. Set reminders for an everyday reminder to let yourself know that you are worth it at 6 a.m. Okay? You're worth it. Get up and get it done. And give yourself time and space to process this because this is a lot. This is a lot. And I think that we have to do what's necessary for us more often. People like ladies, men, if you see somebody that's toxic for you, please do divest. Bye bye. Like just say bye and just, keep it moving. But mean it. Okay. And protect your energy. Right, Jenny? Like, Mr. Brooks, that's what I'm saying. That is so childish. And for the other baby mamas, like, I wouldn't even entertain you, girl. You got 3 kids by a man that's married to another woman that don't know nothing about none of us or our children for years. I'm not having no conversation with this lady. I'm not trying to mess up this man's marriage just because you feel away because this man didn't get you another car. Like, go get a job. Jenny said that Diamond D is dangerous. It makes you loco. And look, apparently I ain't have it. I don't want it. Don't need it. That's just not. I don't need anything that makes me self-injurious. Okay. So, my final thoughts and reflections are these, you guys. I think it is a catastrophic event that we have had to bear witness to. It's a history in the making. And I think that details are still coming out. And I think as more details come out, we'll find out that what we see happen. It's absolutely terrible that these people died at a concert where you're supposed to be having fun and people are just trying to get back to living their best life after being locked up and confined in spaces in their homes for years amidst this pandemic. There's just so much out here. We've got to do our due diligence. We've got to love on ourselves a little bit more, and we've got to be serious and intentional about that love. Do things that align with you really do, that says you really do love yourself, right? Take care of you first. Okay? Go to therapy. Go to therapy. Go to therapy. That's it. If you guys are looking for a good therapist, I'm still updating clinicians every single day as I vet them and make sure that they're culturally competent, aware, and very much suited and booted with outcomes that say they're ready to give you what you need to heal today. Go to clinicalcompetency.org on the internet so that you can get what you need. We have a list of clinicians there. If you're a clinician that needs help, I'm a therapist for clinicians. Also, my colleague is a therapist for clinicians, and we will continue to press forward with competency training and specialty trainings and certifications so that you guys can be able to give these people what it is that they're needing so that we as a system, as a nation of folks, can heal, right? Because that's what we're needing right now. We're needing healing, we're needing congruence, we're needing maturation, we're needing growth cycles that are, that say that they are a part of our positive outcomes. So my heart goes out to the families of all of those people who have lost it. We discussed in tonight's show. Understand that death is final. That's the end of our story. I think you have to ask yourself today, how do you want your story to end, and what does that look like? Suicide is a serious brain pain and a serious brain affliction. And the only way to cure suicidal ideation is with adequate ambivalence and social supports, and us understanding that we are larger than our moments. Okay? If you take nothing else, just know that you are larger than your moment. And everything that you go through, you were meant to go through so that you can learn a lesson from it. So if you can just take and focus on the lesson and not the pain in those moments, it will alleviate some of that immediate distress. Focus on the lesson. Be intentional, love yourself, go out there, be great, do great things, put positive energy into the air, and more importantly, know that you are worth it, okay? So that is all that I got, you guys. Shout out to the chat. You guys were absolutely friggin' amazing on all platforms. Just know that you guys are in my reflections and my thoughts as we are getting ourselves together to go into this next phase post-COVID. It's going to be difficult. It's getting cold. Be safe out there, social distance, and be true to you, okay? That is all I got. Later days. Bye.
A life can't put me in a box. I redefine any definition you got. I am the tiger, I'm making steps to the top. The flames, I'll rip it up, you just gotta hand me the rock. Take a seat, you cannot stand it. All I know, the flow harder than a Scotch bunny. Don't try studying me, you cannot manage. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon.